Hello and welcome to Got Clutter, Get Organized, the conversation. I am so excited today because returning guest is Laura Linn Knight, and she's going to be talking about her book. And the name of her book is The Hare's Mindful Tales, The Boosting Hare Learns to Let Go. And I thought that would be a great conversation for us to have as we are thinking about that back to school season rush, overwhelm. So, Laura, thank you so much for joining.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I can't believe we're talking about back to school, but here it
I
is.
know. I know. And here it seems like just yesterday they were like, "Hey, we're home for summer."
Yeah.
So, my first question is, what made you decide to write this book? Because I know you have several books, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about those later. But
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
made you decide to write this one?
I love fairy tales. I love mindfulness. I was an elementary school teacher. And so I'm always thinking about books in general, picture books, fairy tales, and making them meaningful for children in today's world. And in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, what did the hare do after he lost the race with tortoise? I mean, because that was a big loss for him. Did he just give up? He was never heard from again. And what would happen if he did come back and he did try again? Because that's so much of what I think the value that we're trying to instill in so many of our children is we all make mistakes. We mess up. If you don't know the story of the tortoise and the hare, he boasted. He thought for sure he was going to win. He took a nap. He didn't win. Uh, and so it's kind of his chance to say, hey, I want to try again. But he comes into it with this idea of perfection. Like, I'm just going to be better this time, which is really perfect for the beginning of the school year. Because I think a lot of kids, we walk into this, and parents, right? Like, this year is going to be amazing. I'm going to get it. We're going to get out the door on time, right? It's just going to be so much easier. And I love that attitude. But what Hare finds is that he, just like us humans, is perfectly imperfect with all his imperfection. And he's not able to be perfect for the race, but there's things to learn and there's values to learn in that lesson.
And in those lessons, what are some of the things that, as you, as a parent, but also, in your area of expertise, that you see that parents kind of struggle with the back to school in regards to either letting go or just really being more mindful of the season and it is coming at least for the next few years until their child is maybe off to college.
Hmm. I think you said it really well of just the challenge of being mindful. And for Hare, the challenge of slowing down. And what is it like for us as parents when, you know, for me as a parent, it's very stressful how not only does my child have to be to school at a certain time, but if they're not to school at that time, that gate closes. And then I have to go through the office and I have to write that they're late. And so in my angst in the morning, I find myself like, all of a sudden I'm a drill sergeant. We gotta go. Where's your shoe? Why is your shoe on the roof? Like, what's going on? You don't have your backpack. Like, it just becomes so chaotic. And of course, I'm exaggerating, but it feels like that. And then that's not even the morning I wanted to spend with my children anyway. It's not how I wanted to incorporate mindfulness and a healthy breakfast and all the skills. So, a lot of what I do with parents around this time of year is setting up systems. And we talked about this too the last time I was honored to be a guest on your podcast, where it's like, how do I set up a healthy system for the school year so that the mornings are more mindful and they're less chaotic? And what does that look like so that I actually have a plan and I'm not just racing every day hoping to get there before the gate closes?
And you brought up a good point, Laura. I never thought about it from even the child's perspective of the lateness, because just you envisioning it, it's like the gate closes and then we've got to go to the office and I've got to sign them in. And it's like, what is impact is that having on the child as well? I mean, not just the parent, but also the child. So that is just a visual that was like, wow, I never really thought about that.
And it does impact them. And having been in the classroom too, I'm lucky because I have both perspectives, right? I have being the teacher and I have being the parent. So I've been on both sides. And the students, when they were walking in, they never felt good. It doesn't, I mean, sometimes you're just late and that's okay. But for it to happen day after day, and oh, I missed the morning meeting and the teacher went over everything we were going to do. And that's kind of the time where everyone decompresses together also as a group. And that's important because we're to, you're the children. I'm like saying we as if I'm in the classroom, but I'm not in the classroom anymore. But the teacher is in the classroom, for what, 8 hours a day with our children. We want it to be as successful and as emotionally regulated as possible.
So, with your book, what can not only kids but also parents take away from it? Because some of the parents will probably be reading to the children, or maybe they'll be side by side with the child as they read to them. So, what are some lessons that they can learn as we enter this new school year, being more mindful, but also maybe just figuring out if maybe one or two things we can let go?
That's a great question. In the back of all my picture books, I always have the back matter where I have tools and resources for parents. And so that is a good place where parents can kind of dig a little bit deeper into mindfulness, into their own mindfulness practice. So, how do I let go of my perfectionism? How do I honor the fact that I am imperfect and I will make mistakes? And I have different guided activities in the back that I think not only really benefit a child, but deeply benefit me as an adult too. Because so much of this I learned in my adult years. This wasn't a conversation that was happening in my home as a child. And so I think that's many adults experience where they're learning it side by side with their child, and then they get to model that lesson again and again. So the goal in all of my books is that they're standalone, fun, and engaging for the child, but there's always more opportunity for an adult and an educator to go deeper with the lesson and help a child really just understand that there's so many parts of us and all those parts are okay. And it doesn't mean we don't work or strive to change and achieve, what we want to achieve, but there's an accepting in the books too of just this fallibility of being a person and that it's okay.
Mm. I'm just thinking about so many things, Laura. You just dropped so many nuggets. So my one question to you, my last question to you, because I know, you're organized and have your children, but you also have the business. But one, I guess, strategy that has helped you during the school season as you transition from summer of fun to back to school? Like, do you have like a tip that you could share with the parents out there who are just thinking, oh my goodness, here we go again? And they're just going in that chaotic, just confusion, a strategy that can help them?
I do. I say to parents, and I will say to parents, practice while you still have a moment of summer calm. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like we don't really want to do that because we just want to be in the summer vibe and who wants to even think about school. But if we start talking about it now, hey, we're going to go back to school soon. What are some of the things that really helped you last year? And what are the things that were really difficult? What was difficult for you as a child? What was difficult for me as an adult? And now let's come up with a game plan because we know that if we want to be successful this year, and I know we all do, then we have to have a plan in place. And does that look like for you picking out your clothes the night before? Because it's just so hard to find the right socks in the morning. So let's make sure they're on your dresser. For me as a parent, it's always making lunch the night before. I'm exhausted at night. I never want to do it, but I never have time to do it in the morning. So I know, okay, am I going to make it at 4 before it's 8 o'clock? Like I have to figure that out too in my organizational skills. And then as I come up with that plan, depending on the age of my child, when my children were really little, we took pictures, we made posters, and it was like, this is our morning routine for getting out the door. Okay, what do we do on the poster? What do we do next? What comes after that? And it was really clear. And then as my children got older, it was they created a list or they wrote it out. So depending on the age of your child, it can look really different. If you have a teenager, maybe it's their own daily planner. and they have it jotted down in there, and different days require different getting ready routines. Uh, but talk about it before it's so stressful, and before all the stuff, all the difficulties arise with getting back to school, and then it feels like more of a consequence as opposed to more of a just helpful proactive strategy.
Those are some great tips. Those are some great strategies just for adults as we, you know, enjoy the summer fun, but know, okay, now it's fall, we got to go back to work. So, Laura, in addition to sharing, how people can really get in touch with you, can you also share about some of the other books you've written? Because I know this is not the only one you've written.
Yes. So in my children's book collection, I also have a story about the Big Bad Wolf. And the Big Bad Wolf was tired of being the villain. He felt very lonely and isolated. He was sick of huffing and puffing and blowing things down. And so he changes his menacing ways and he decides to use his huff and puff for good. And so that's Wolf's Tales, and he I have two of those out in the series now. But what's really nice about that is I play on the huff and puff as a way to teach children self-regulation strategies and using the breath for calming the body down and getting into the parasympathetic nervous system. Of course, we don't tell the children all that in the book. I kind of leave the science in the end of the book for the parents. But again, it's like, how do I ingrain strategies that I want my child to take with them for a lifetime in a way that's fun and engaging and isn't simply go to your room and take a breath because you need to calm down. So if I teach it as fun ahead of time, then my children or my students, if I'm an educator, they start to incorporate it on their own. So I have a whole Mindful Tales collection that is rolling out, and some of those have come out, and they're just reimagining fairy tales. And then I also have the book that we talked about last time, Break Free from Reactive Parenting, where there's a lot of tools and tips in that. And then in a whole nother realm, we as a family, unfortunately, we got really sick when we lived in California from mold. We didn't know that we had mold in our house. And so I wrote a book called The Toxic Mold Solution, and it's for people that are affected by mold. It just is so prevalent, and so many people don't know, and there's not resources out there. And after going through that experience, I felt like I wish I had had a book that I could have understood better because so many of them are scientific. So that was published by Ulysses Press and is just an opportunity for people who are trying to figure out some of their health issues.
Wow, you have a wonderful collection of books and resources. So, again, how can people connect with you and get a copy of your books?
Okay, so everything is available on Amazon and Target online, and I'm Barnes and Noble online, and in some bookstores. But if you go to my website, Laura Lynn Linn Knight Knight, I know you'll have it. That has a full list of all my books, and it has a lot of free parenting tools and a blog that I post on also that has a lot of the things we've been talking about today.
And of course, those watching as well as listening, I will have a direct link to Laura's website so you can, see all the wonderful books and resources that she has available for you to get. Well, Laura, thank you so much for this conversation because now it will really help parents on that transition to back to school.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And good luck, everyone. We can do this.